It was a normal evening at home. I had just returned from work, exhausted, and looking forward to practicing my guitar, a vintage 1958 Gibson Les Paul that my grandfather had passed down to me. It wasn't just an instrument. It was history, memories, and craftsmanship rolled into one. I went to my room, expecting to pick it up from the stand where it always rested. But it wasn't there. My stomach dropped. At first, I thought maybe I had misplaced it temporarily. Maybe I had left it in the living room. But when I checked everywhere, it was gone. I ran to my parents. "Have you seen my guitar?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. My dad shrugged. "What guitar?" "The Les Paul. The one Grandpa gave me." Mom frowned. "That old thing?" "I thought you weren't playing it anymore. Maybe you should sell it." "Sell it?" I repeated, horrified. "That's not just a guitar. It's priceless." "Priceless?" My dad laughed. "It's just an instrument. People sell guitars all the time. You don't play it, so why not?" Before I could respond, my mom added, "Honestly, I think we might have already sold it. Remember last week I mentioned we needed extra money for the car repairs?" My heart stopped. "You sold it?" Dad nodded. "Yeah, some guy from the music store came by, said he could give us a good price. We didn't think it would be a big deal." A big deal? I felt like the ground had disappeared beneath me. The guitar wasn't just a possession. It was family legacy. Memories of my grandfather teaching me chords, stories about musicians who had owned similar models, the feeling of the wood under my fingers. It was irreplaceable. "Do you even know what you sold?" I demanded, voice rising. Mom and Dad exchanged glances. "It was an antique, right?" My mom said cautiously. "Yes," I said through gritted teeth. "But it's not just any antique. It's a 1958 Gibson Les Paul Custom, one of the rarest models in existence. The value alone is astronomical." Dad frowned. "Really? How much are we talking about?" I hesitated, unsure if I wanted to say it. But the truth needed to hit them. It's worth easily over $150,000, and that's conservative. Collectors would kill for it. Mom's eyes widened. $150,000. But we got $71,000. I could feel my blood pressure spike. "You sold it for less than half of its actual value." Dad tried to defend himself. "We thought it was fair. We needed money." "Fair?" I laughed bitterly. "Do you know what you've done? You've sold my grandfather's legacy for a quick cash fix. You had no idea what you were dealing with." Their faces fell, finally realizing the gravity of the mistake. But the damage was done. The guitar was gone, and no amount of regret could bring it back. I sank into my chair, staring at the empty corner where it had always stood. The irony was cruel. The one thing that had connected me to my grandfather, preserved his memory, and inspired my music career had been taken from me, and they had no idea what they actually sold. The next morning, I called the music store where they had supposedly sold the guitar. My hands shook slightly as I explained the situation. The clerk listened patiently and then asked for some details: the model, serial number, and any distinguishing marks. I gave them everything I knew. After a pause, the clerk spoke again. "Sir, I think there's been a misunderstanding. The buyer paid for the guitar. Yes, but this model, this specific 1958 Les Paul Custom, that's one of the rarest guitars in existence. It was undervalued badly. Honestly, even at $71,000, it's less than half of what collectors would pay." I felt a mix of anger and disbelief. My parents had literally handed away a piece of music history for a fraction of its true value. They had no clue. They had treated it like any other household item. I needed to see the buyer. I asked the clerk for their contact information. Legally, there were limits to what I could do, but I had to try. Within a few hours, I was standing outside a private collector's showroom downtown. My heart pounded. Inside, the guitar sat under a glass case. It gleamed, more beautiful than ever. I ran my fingers along the edge through the glass, remembering my grandfather's stories about how he had polished it, cared for it, and passed it to me. Every scratch, every dent, every mark had a story. The collector approached, smiling politely. "You must be the family," he said. "I know what you're thinking. Believe me, this instrument is safe here. And yes, your parents sold it, but I assure you it's appreciated for its true worth in this collection." I let out a breath I hadn't realized I'd been holding. At least it wasn't lost to some random buyer who would care nothing for its history. At least it was with someone who understood. Still, the betrayal stung. My parents didn't just take something valuable. They had no idea of its significance. The legacy, the memories, the bond with my grandfather. They had dismissed it as a trivial object. And the lesson hit me hard. Sometimes people closest to you can make decisions that hurt more than strangers ever could. I spent the next few hours documenting everything, making sure the provenance was clear and the guitar's history was preserved. Every note it had ever played mattered. Every chord I had learned from it mattered. When I finally left, I realized something important. I couldn't change what my parents had done, and I couldn't get back the $71,000. But I could make sure the guitar and everything it represented was protected, and in that moment, I understood the value of knowing what you own, guarding it carefully, and never assuming that someone else will respect its true worth. My grandfather had trusted me with a treasure, and even if my parents had failed to see it, I hadn't. As I walked away, I felt a mix of sorrow, anger, and resolve. The guitar was safe. The legacy was safe. And next time, no one, no matter how close, would ever underestimate its worth again. I returned home that evening, the weight of what had happened heavy on my shoulders. My parents were in the living room, calm as if nothing had occurred. I went to see the guitar. I said, quietly, "You mean the one we sold?" My mom asked nervously. "Yes," I replied. "It's safe at a collector's showroom. But you need to understand something. That 1958 Les Paul Custom wasn't just a guitar. It's Grandpa's legacy, memories, history, everything he cared about. You treated it like an object for quick cash." My dad opened his mouth, but I raised a hand. "I'm not here to argue. I'm here to make sure this never happens again. From now on, nothing with real value leaves this house without me knowing." Both nodded, shame and realization on their faces. I walked past the empty corner where the guitar once stood. It wasn't there physically, but in my mind, it was alive, safe, respected, and valued. I vowed that no one, not even family, would ever undervalue my legacy again.